this morning. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Auntie Gloria, you had something to say.
I was just talking about the Act 930, the Special Deposit Taking Institutions Act. And I will say that with the Act 930, there are some issues about it. It does not take into consideration bank workers in the banks or specialized deposit-taking institutions. And also, there's no provision as to how to protect them and customers. So I will recommend that the Act, that's the Act 930, is critically studied and looked at, and amendments can be made to that act, taking into consideration the fact that we are a developing economy. Because when you look at it, it looks like it was brought from the UK or somewhere and copied dito into our system. But here we are, a lot of Ghanaians are unbanked. Of course, when you talk, they will say that, oh, now we have the mobile wallet, and so that's a form of banking. But if I remember, I read the Vice President's book, which he wrote about the unbanked in Ghana. And at that time, over 70% of Ghanaians, they don't have bank accounts. Over 70%. So if the banks want to be up and doing and to get the average Ghanaian to have a bank account, then we must have some law that cushions the Ghanaians so that they don't go picketing for their monies. We must also have a law that protects the staff, because, as you know, government sector does not generate much opportunities for employment. The formal government sector is just about 15% or less of the economy. So the private sector, which is about 80% and over, constitutes the highest sector for employment. So in looking at these banking malpractices, we should also look at how the directors are separated from the customers, from the clients, and also from the employees, so that all these businesses will be able to stay even after the directors are punished, if there are any punitive measures, and it doesn't affect deposits of clients, and it doesn't affect employment of employees. Oh, the law, I wrote about it, banking the unbanked in Ghana. The law is it's just not fit for our developing economy. It's just not fit for our developing economy. And so it's something that one has to study. A number of lawyers I recommend should study it and make proposals to Parliament for amendment of the legislation, because there's no protection for customers, clients, and also employees, especially when the directors are in default, like it happened with the Capital Bank. And also in that act, there are no opportunities for suing and be sued. I remember a case arose regarding either the Indum or this Capital Bank, where the lawyers for the defendants were indicating that they should be able to get the High Court to listen to them, because in the act it says arbitration. It's all, it does not give rights for suing. It's all arbitration, and representatives from the court, representatives from the Chartered Institute of Accountants, and what have you. And that is also something that should not be, allowed in our legislation. There must always be a legislation that enables people to sue after all efforts to reconcile or arbitrate have proved negative. So that's all I would say, that we should look at this. Have suffered from this Act 930 being, implemented in the way that it shouldn't have been. Thank you.
Yeah, but in terms of the case itself, the Ato Essien case itself, and the custodial sentence that has been imposed on him by the court for his role in the collapse or the offenses that he committed, which all but led to the collapse of the Capital Bank. What do you make it? And listening to the Deputy Attorney General talking about how they gave him a long time to make the payments, and it doesn't look like he's going to make the payments. What are your thoughts on this whole custodial sentence and him?
Ato Essien failed to pay his portion as decided by the court, and so he's been jailed a number of years, 15 a year. But how about the remainder of the money? How are we going to generate it? I believe strongly that when directors of these specialized deposit-taking institutions are penalized or punished, the special deposit-taking institution, that's the bank or non-bank sector, must still be in operation to pay the debt. Now that he's gone and Capital Bank is no more, who is going to pay that debt? Who is going to pay the balance of the 90 million? And how is it going to be paid? Can he work in prison to pay for it? The systems must be in place so that when directors are punished, apart from them languishing in jail, the institution is made to pay. That's how the laws should work. I see that it as a loss to the state. We are losing the balance that he should have paid. And then there's also no backbone or no support or no organizational or institutional support to repay the debts. I believe the Specialized Deposit-Taking Institution Act 930, passed in 2016, should be amended. We should look at it again. We should look at our developing economic situation. We should not swallow everything hook, line and sinker from the Western economies. They are developed, and the governments are strong to give them a backbone. We are not. We are still developing. And I don't think our government has all that extra cash to waste.
All right. Kwame Jantua, what are your thoughts on, I know you asked the Deputy Attorney General some questions in relation to other persons who may be culpable or who may have played a role one way or the other, including even the regulatory bodies, the regulators, the Bank of Ghana, and he agreed that yes, investigations needs to be done in that regard. Have we wasted too much time in doing this? Shouldn't that have happened long ago? And what are your thoughts generally on, like the same question I asked Gloria, in terms of this custodial sentence and ability to pay back the money? Are we just not losing money in letting this person languish in jail?
Let me start. Good morning to our listeners and good morning to those watching us. And let me start from where Auntie Gloria left off and the last segment of, I should just call you Gloria. Okay, Gloria. And where your last question. You see the irony of us closing Capital Bank. Because if we hadn't closed Capital Bank and we'd have found a way to keep it going, will Capital Bank not be responsible now to pay that money? They would be in business, wouldn't they? They would still be in business. And being in business with close supervision, couldn't it have worked and paid that money back? But what did we do? We closed it down. And for me, I wasn't in favor of the banks being closed down. I wasn't in favor at all, because I believe that there could have been a way, especially because of the fact that they're indigenous banks and the fact that people were employed, Ghanaians were employed in these indigenous banks. And if you were to compete with the foreign banks in this country, we would have no legs to stand on. So it was incumbent on us, yes, to take the rot out, but keep the structure of the bank, put it back in the right way, and then it will trade. People will still have jobs, and government can now make sure that the first profits that Capital Bank makes, they are able to pay the money back. So tell me today, how is Atu Essien going to be able to pay this money languishing in jail? It could be that he sold all his properties. I don't know how he made the money, how he made the first installment, but it could be that his properties was what he sold to pay the first installment. There's some argument also going around that there were some people who were helping him, sending him money to be able to pay, and for some reason or another reason, some untoward thing has gone on where it has been stopped because they want to make him an example. That I don't know, but it's a rumor going round. But can he pay languishing in jail with hard labor? How? Doc, tell me. Is he going to sell his family? What properties can he pay? How much of the balance is left? It's about what, 60 million?
Yeah, about, yeah.
Where is he going to find 60 million? Yes, that's about what? The whole amount that he's owed is about $9 million, right?
90, what?
The 90 million.
In Ghana cities, yeah.
Yeah, in Ghana cities, yeah.
There was about
It's
37
about,
there,
yeah,
I
it's
think.
about $9 million. Where is he going to find the money to pay? Not unless he has some people who, you know, would try as much as possible to pay for him. Then maybe. But I don't think even if he goes for an appeal, because he was convicted on his own plea of guilty. And let's say, yes, he goes for an appeal. You know, is it Asekan Abugapele? Was that the case? What did the court do when he went for appeal? They increased the sentence, didn't they? So even if he goes for appeal, there's a possibility that if the appeal court feels that the sentence they've been giving him is too lenient, they can increase it. So for me, I wouldn't even think of going for an appeal now till that money has been paid, and then you go in and say, well, you've been able to pay the money, please reduce the sentence. I saw one headline in Daily Guide which says Atu Essien jailed 95 years for stealing. Is that true? Yes. The combination of the sentences, when you conclude it, is 95 years. But was he jailed 95 years? I think that headline is misleading. He was jailed 15 years.
So he was, a number of sentences were imposed on him
Yes,
for the
another,
different-
yes,
but to run
yes,
concurrently.
yes, to run concurrently,
Yeah.
yes. But it wasn't 95 years he was jailed for. He was jailed for 15 years.
I guess they just added.
Well, it is not right.
Yeah.
You know, papers should. Yes, I know they're using it to sell their papers, but that is not what the courts finally sentenced him for. But one of the things that really made me kind of, I was wondering, when you look at the reasons why he was sentenced, they are grave. Let me read some. It says, the court said that the acts committed by Atu Essien was deliberate and calculated. One adding that as the majority shareholder of the bank, he demonstrated greed by opening another bank. Now, where was the supervisory, who was supervising the fact that he was taking money out of the bank? Was it the board? Were it the auditors? And why would he want to do a thing like that? He founded Capital Bank. Did he go to the board before taking those monies out? Wasn't it the board's responsibility to make sure that he was doing his work as a shareholder and chief executive of the bank? Why did they leave? Who was compromised in that event? Then you go to another one. It says, the court said he was expected to have demonstrated a sense of responsibility, but not stealing those gargantuan sums of monies. For me, the auditor and the accountancy firm that was looking after Capital Bank's finances should really be questioned. We need to go deeper into it. And the reason why I say that is that so that we have a precedent. The fact that they've jailed Atu Essien, for me, is not the end of the story. That's why I asked the Deputy Attorney General, are you going to go after the others right up to the Bank of Ghana? Are you? And how long did it take for him to be siphoning and stealing this money till he was caught? We need to see the story and where it would end. It's sad. Look, prison is not an easy place to live. And apart from that, prison isn't a place where your family, it breaks down your family completely. I mean, I've experienced it, so I know what it feels not to have a parent around, have children and a wife, and you, the man, being in prison. I know how it feels, and it is awful. I feel sorry for Ato Essie's family. But then, what was he thinking? When he was taking all the, what was he thinking? Was it that he was under peer pressure? Wouldn't it have been better if he had made sure that Capital Bank was strong? Capital Bank was immovable. Capital Bank was the #1 bank in the country. And then from that point, you go and open another bank. Would he not still have made money if Capital Bank was a strong bank? He's a shareholder. So the greed element, where does it come from? Young man, where was he in a hurry to? Young man, what kind of monies was he looking for? Young man, what was he going to use the money for? Young man, what peer pressure was he under? But let me end by saying it's a lesson for all young people who feel that they have the wherewithal in terms of the knowledge, the capacity to build businesses, and not allow peer pressure, not allow the fact that others are doing it so you also want to do it, to get them in this situation. But most importantly, this is the private sector. What is happening in the public sector? I expect the Attorney General to go after some of the misdemeanors and corruption that is happening in state institutions. The way they followed this one up, they should do the same for the public sector, because some people are saying the Attorney General right now is vilified. He's doing his work, but the more work is in the public sector. The corruption that is going is affecting all of us. At least this one is affecting Capital Bank. And yes, it's also affecting us because what? It's the taxpayers' money that government will use to pay those who have lost money. Is government paying that money, or have they paid a certain amount of that money back to the customers? I'm not sure. But if push comes to shove, government would have to do that. And it's the taxpayers' money.
Yeah, but the depositors didn't lose any money. That was part of the reason for the cleanup.
Yeah, but the deposit, it was the depositors' money that he used.
Yes, but then that's where the government stepped in
and cleaned it up. As I said, they should have left it like they did. Is it CBG?
No,
CBG
was what was.
Yeah, but they consolidated because they could have done the same for what do you call it. I am dead against this closing of the banks. For me, I believe we could have done it a different way, because currently, with what is happening in our finances, in our financial sector today, with the DDEP, it has even reduced the quality of local banks more. And it has put the foreign banks right on top there, because the foreign banks, they have money coming in. They can be shored up by their mother companies abroad. And it makes it difficult for Ghanaian banks to also compete. How are we going to now get back after the financial clear-up? And what? We used what? 25 billion to clean up? Couldn't we have used that 25 billion to make sure that these banks are put right, strong foundation, and move on?
But isn't that the reason why some of our stronger banks, or bank, for instance, GCB, was made to take over some of the defunct banks?
Do you know the pressure it put on GCB? You know the pressure put on GCB. Was that the right way to go? Couldn't we have used that money to clear up those banks that we felt weren't doing the right thing, and still put them in business? Far less.
The money's used could have been diverted.
Exactly.
More roads, more schools, more amenities.
25 billion. Has government accounted for the 25 billion? Have they accounted for it? I haven't seen an account. Have you? Gloria, have you?
Well,
I haven't seen it. So even with the 25 million, government hasn't accounted. They should also account for it, and let us see how that money was spent. If you are doing it for one, do it for another.
And even with the GCB, there were a few layoffs of lower level, staff. And I remember one lady in Asum came from work, GCB, by name Lariba, or another name. And when they found out, she just went into her room, committed suicide, hanged herself, because she had received a letter indicating that her services were no longer needed or required. It's created a lot of mental health problems for former.
But that fault can be
also
placed.
for some of us who still cannot get some of our deposits. It's quite stressful.
But can you blame the government for that?
We are not blaming. I'm talking of the acts. The acts. Act 930. I wrote an article about using the Vice President's book as the reference. That over 70% of Ghanaians do not have a bank account. They don't own a bank account, and that is affecting our banking sector. The banks are not able to mobilize the funds. Well, over the years, we have what we call the mobile money wallets, but that is still not what we consider traditionally as a bank account. So the banks should not have been treated with that act. This is not a government thing. This is a legislative matter. Parliament is also involved. This Act 930 was passed in 2016, even before this government took over. But that act, when you study it critically as a former banker, which I am, you realize that it's an act that was, the provisions were taken from the West, references to major UK and other institutional legislations and just pasted into our local legislation. And as Lawyer Jantua is indicating, our economy is different. We are a developing economy. I must repeat, we are a developing economy. We are not strong, when it comes to the banking sector, when it comes to liquidity, when it comes to the capital ratio and all that. We are not strong. And so we should look at the legislation again and amend it so that it fits into our developing economy. And then it also protects jobs of employees and deposits of clients.
Doc, are you saying that government had no responsibility in terms of this banking cleanup?
No, I haven't said that.
Okay, so they have some culpability in what went on.
I haven't said that either.
But I'm asking, don't they? They are supposed to supervise the banks, aren't they? The Bank of Ghana is supposed to be the regulator. Am I wrong? Who puts the governor of the Bank in Ghana, the Bank of Ghana, in place? Isn't it nominated by the president? Isn't the president part of government? So did they shirk their responsibility of not supervising these banks? Did they? And if they did, was it right for them to take the action they took, especially when it now affected people's jobs? So let me give you an example of GN Bank. GN Bank went into the nooks and crannies of this country, where the rural people did not even understand what banking was. And they were able to set up banks in rural areas, which now build capacity and gave people the idea that, oh, there's a bank, we can put our money there. What happens to it? Gone. Rural folk, their money, gone. Don't you think they could have handled this thing differently? Especially when there's a percentage of culpability on their side? I really think it should have been handled better. Unfortunately, it hasn't. Unfortunately, there are people who worked in the bank today are Uber drivers. There are people in the bank today who are doing other things than what they were trained for. So let's all use it as a lesson going forward and make sure that when such things happen, we can sit, think about it properly and see right ways that we can mend the problem. And not go gung-ho and spend 25 billion in doing such an exercise, and we haven't even been able to account for that 25 billion, how that money was used.
Antoinette, we're talking about the Capital Bank Ato Essien issue, the fact that the court this week sentenced him to 15 years imprisonment, and the ramifications of that decision in terms of how we're going to get our money, if we will get the money back, and all those kinds of things. We spoke to the Deputy Attorney General, and he shared some thoughts with us on how the genesis of this case and where we are, and the fact that it is by no means a done deal, and that they are still going to pursue this matter to its logical conclusion. What are your thoughts on this generally? You've heard the thoughts of Kwame Jantua and Gloria Ofori-Boadu. What are your thoughts on this particular issue?
Okay, thank you very much, Kweku, and good morning to you, to my co-panelists, and to our cherished listeners. It's a pleasure to be here once again. Generally, Kweku, I think I agree with Lawyer Janto when he talks about the fact that prison, definitely, it's a social loss to us, to the family, the breakdown of the family, the effect on the children. So we can't even begin to talk about the effect of that. But that said, the level of social injustice that we see today in our society, I think, is consistently growing. And the impudence and the audacity with which people are able to embezzle public funds speaks to a lot of, a breakdown of a certain system or culture that 3, 4, 5 decades ago would it have been the same? We are all supposed to abide by a constitution, and the constitution is very clear and specific. Atuaisian was given time to pay, and it wasn't even the court that gave that time. He went ahead and said, in this number of months I'll be able to pay the balance. Now, in the interim, if you were not able to pay, could you not have put in another appeal or put a plea and then show evidence that you are going to pay eventually? You are in the process of paying, you are starting to pay. But 90 million, you pay 30 million, and then the 60 million is hanging. I listened to my 37 million he paid.
Yeah.
I listened to my co-panelists talking about the impact it had on families, people who lost their jobs and etc. And at the end of the day, you always ask yourself about the banking sector or the financial sector reform. For me, it had all this impact on people, yes. But does it also mean that when someone like Atuaisian, who was responsible for Capital Bank, neglected his duty? If you read the details behind the whole thing, it is not about the fact that he just took funds, but funds that was even meant for recapitalization of the bank when the bank was going down. You didn't use it for that. Then it makes you even question the intention behind him doing what he did. It raises a lot of questions. And if people lost their jobs from Capital Bank, so were you there to run a bank to protect people's money, to improve the banking sector, financial sector, people who were working for you? Did you really care about all of them before you went ahead and you did all of this? And those are the things that we also need to ask ourselves, that it is not because of the financial sector or the banking sector that people ended up with, but it is because of people like Atuaisian, because of the failure in our regulations. That is the effect that it has had on the average Ghanaian. And as Gloria said, we still have our deposits in certain financial institutions that collapsed. Government, I don't think government, even with the 25 billion, has been able to settle all. I have had to even write letters to the receiver. I've had to bypass the financial institution and write directly to the receiver, because I did a little bit of digging and I found out that, okay, it means that the receiver would have some form of some sort of information or details on when that financial institution is supposed to be able to pay us back our deposits. It is very sad. And I listened to Gloria as I was driving here. For a developing country like us, where we are not very, very financially inclined to keep putting our money in the bank, it is very painful when banks collapse. And it is even more painful, as Lawyer Jantua said, when banks that are in remote areas that are supposed to increase, the ability of people to now deposit. Okay. And people putting money in the bank or depositing, increase of savings, also raises domestic capital for us. So it's a wheel of fortune for us that helps us to develop. So it is very sad when the financial sector collapses in the way where depositors lose their funds, lose their confidence in the financial sector, in the banking sector. And that's why I had a strong, firm belief in the banking sector reform. I look at Bank of Ghana's 2020 report. where they specifically talk about from mid 2017 till end of 2018, when the financial sector reforms had actually taken place, and they talk about the positive, the positive impact of the financial sector reform. They talk about the indicators such as the positioning of the banking sector to now support economic growth. They talk about the how it has now been able to improve our ability, our ability to and confidence to put your deposit in a bank and say that when you want it, you will get it back. It talks about the industry's growth. That is, at the end of the day, the ability, the sector's credit growth rate since the reforms took place, and all of that, the deposits that had moved from 17.3% to now 22.2% in 2018, and then in 2019 it was increasing. So then it makes us realize that prior to the banking sector reforms, there was a crisis, but we hadn't been able to nail it. We hadn't been able to hold the bull by the horns and say that this thing was going to crash, and it was time for us to address it. For me, at the time, I was also a bit worried that aren't we putting too much into the sector's cleanup? Should we have staggered it? Perhaps on hindsight, if we look at what happened in 2020 with COVID coming, and then later with the Russia-Ukraine crisis, double hit economically. If we had staggered it and not put all the 25 billion into banking sector cleanup, but had gone by it, us would have had a bit more excess, money to do other things. But at the time, it was needed. It was necessary. Depositors were going to even lose more funds, because for me, a lot of the banks had become like a sieve. It had become like a bottomless pit. And there's something about a lot of depositors that I have to point out, Kweku. Most of the time, we are attracted to banks and to financial institutions for so many other reasons other than reading the rules and the regulations and knowing how you are protected and what you are entitled to. So I remember during the banking sector reforms, a lot of people went to the bank now asking them, what do I do? What can I do? So is it, so it became a series of people not even knowing
but Adi,
that they had debt.
Whose responsibility is it?
It is also your responsibility. Now let me point something, lawyer. If the Bank of Ghana, as a regulator, puts all these rules there and you don't read it, how do you know that the financial institution that you are going to deposit your money
does everybody
is abiding by the rules?
Does everybody have the capability to be able to diagnose and read?
It's not that everybody has the capability.
Exactly.
But if we look at the percentage of our population that is saving in banks, and I am one of them, how many times do I read what I'm entitled to? How many times we save in banks, and most of the time it is only when they deduct something from you that you ask yourself, are they entitled to deduct?
The bank has a responsibility.
The bank has a responsibility. You, the individual, also has a responsibility. And we've been through this kind of fluke financial institutions in Ghana. I remember Piram, the one on the Achimota Road. And we have had them come all the way to Men's Good. Do we as people take some time off to ask ourselves, what are the rules and regulations in the financial sector before we deposit? And then if people can't read and can't understand, maybe we should also appeal to the media and etc. Some of these things should be public knowledge. It should be something. NCC, do we translate all of these things? So the low level of knowledge, I believe, is also a problem in our financial sector.
On that score, the bank,
and we need to find ways.
Level of knowledge.
It's not just the bank, and I will not argue with you. Yes, the bank also has it, but you see, the bank's almost always the bank's first aim or priority is to win you over as a customer. So they'll tell you all the good and nice things, of course, bound by the regulations that you need to hear to make your deposit. They won't tell you the but. So you as a customer has a responsibility to also know the buts, to protect yourself. That also brings me to what we still haven't been able to really solidify or consolidate properly in our country, the Consumer Protection Act. What are we doing with it? What protects you? You know, if you go to a bank or you go anywhere to seek a service, and the service that you so desire is not given to you in the right way, or there's an affrontation, or there's something that is against your rights, what protects you? You know, because it's not just the fact that we waited until there was banking sector reforms before we all realized that some of the banks have done as bad. You know, they've taken a deposit, financial institutions took a deposit, and they will tell you, I saved with a financial institution, and it's a state one, and I put my deposit there. I signed an agreement. In my opinion, I knew what, and I understood what they were going to invest my money in, but they invested in something else. And when it was time now and I started asking for my money, it has stalled for over 5 years now, and I haven't been paid. So I keep telling them that I can take you to court, because per the agreement, this is what you said my investments will be in. But today you are telling me you didn't invest in that. You invested in something else, and now you can't retrieve my money for me. And that is the problem. So Atuasian's case is not just something that we should ignore, but I think it's an eye-opener. It's a case for us to now further look. It's not just about him and the Capital Bank. The regulators that were in charge, was there any negligence of duty surrounding him? Was he the only one in Capital Bank who was in charge of all of this and allowed all of this to happen? Because at a certain point in our development, if we want to keep accounting, or if we want to ensure that the transparency, the fight against corruption, and all of these things that we need to solidify our democracy and make our development even stronger, we will have to hold the bull by the horns, take harsh decisions, such as saying that if you are not paying the money, this is what is going to happen. It is unfortunate,
the most
but this is
important,
the reality.
take the politics out of it.
Exactly. So I think I was waiting to see or to hear what you would say. I was waiting to read a lot more rejoinders on people saying that, was this politicized, was it apolitical? But everyone seems to have gone quite quiet on this issue, and I think it's because the impact. I was listening to a friend yesterday. She said, I don't know him from anywhere, but I was driving and I heard 15 years and my heart dropped. He said, if it was me, because he said he went to court with his wife. I don't think he was expecting to hear that. So it is painful, but this is the harsh reality of what embezzlement of funds does. Let me also mention that my maiden name is Isian, but I don't know if I'm related. Thank you very much.
No, and just on a point, one of the things that you mentioned, whether they could have asked for more time and all that. Indeed, in court, his lawyer pointed to the fact that they were not trying to take advantage of the leniency of the court in giving them a long period of time. But as a matter of fact, there were some issues in terms of payments that were supposed to have been received, because there's some transactions that I think some properties that he had, which was being sold to some other company, and then there's another company that had an interest had secured a judgment or something of that sort. So now the payments ceased, and that's part of the reason why they have not been able to make good the promises that they made, and they actually asked for more time to be able to make these.
Don't you think it would have been a good thing for them to be advising the court as and when they fell into problems and not waited for this?
No, I'm sure. I'm quite certain that was done.
That's what I was saying.
I'm quite certain that must have
there's a
been
process,
done.
and I think that they could have consistently informed.
Yes.
There's something about communication, and yes, the situation is there, but can you keep the communication and update? And now we arrive at a situation where you have defaulted.
Yes.
for so many times.
No, so it seems, so there must have been that communication one way or the other, but it's
perhaps they are not privy to maybe.
I'll come to you, but I want to take the thoughts of Ni quickly on this Atuasian issue.
Okay. Good morning to our wonderful listeners.
Traveling stranger.
It's good to be back in the studio. It's always a delight to be with Doc and my former lecturer. I've always said that her lectures were always enlightening, and Uncle John as well. And good morning to all our wonderful viewers as well. You see, we need to have a very frank conversation in respect of this Atuasian matter and its wider implications on the bank sector cleanup. Taxpayers' money was used to have to save these banks that had liquidity problems and challenges. Now, the key issue is, what was the cause of these liquidity challenges? Was it as a result of some global issue or phenomenon that had affected all the banks, and so government had to come in as an intervention, or was it systematic and internal weaknesses and plain stealing of depositors' monies, including financial support that had been forwarded by the central bank? We've seen the auditors' reports. We've read them, and we've all expressed outrage. Indeed, one of the key problems that the MPP government is touted as the reason why are having this economic challenge is as a result of the banking sector cleanup and the colossal amounts that was used to do this financial sector cleanup. How those monies were used is another matter. But then there is clear evidence that managers of these banks, including their boards, in some instances literally took these monies, including the Bank of Ghana. In fact, that's even the most serious part. The Bank of Ghana liquidity support that was supposed to shore them up and to bring them back into good standing was actually shared in some instances among more board members. There must be accountability. You see, nobody wishes anyone to be in prison. It is not a pleasant experience. I wouldn't wish it for my worst enemy, because our prison conditions are not one that even you would want your worst enemy to be
with hard labor too.
You understand? But it's either we recovered the monies or we held somebody to account. I think it is a necessary first step. We are the same public that calls upon the government to hold these directors and board members and all persons who have held or contributed towards this financial sector collapse to account. And yet when the bell, you see, it's a typical example of who will bell the cat in a situation where the cat is a very dangerous animal, or who will bell the tiger. I think that the Attorney General needs to be congratulated for one, seeking to recover as much of these monies as possible. Sometimes we are the first to criticize public officers when we believe that they are not doing well. When they do well too, we should also be first to also congratulate them. So on this occasion, for even being able to collect 37 million cedis, I think that AG Godfred Dami has done very well. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Or it's only Godfred Dami?
No, I am praising Godfred Dami first, because he has, in the face of harsh criticism, maintained a steady focus when it comes to this particular case. I know there are others in the pipeline. I think it sends a very strong message to all those who have contributed towards what had happened in the financial sector reforms. When you read the decision of the court, I think the judge made certain very profound comments that if you knew from the beginning that you were in a position or you wanted to, hand in or send money, you wouldn't have allowed the state to call 17 witnesses or 50 witnesses. That is, you see, in our jurisdictions, most of the time, we don't properly, in my opinion, and all of us lawyers at the table will agree, that the cost of litigation is never properly costed when it comes to how we award damages for legal cost. In other jurisdictions, it's properly calculated. In fact, when I looked at the recent decision in the the case involving the defamation case on Fox News and the company that manufactures the machines for the elections. When you look at the calculations in respect of it is properly costed. So the state even should have been compensated for the legal cost of putting up the case and calling 17 or 15 witnesses. The judge made the point that if you knew that you were going to hand, you wouldn't have let the state spend almost 3 years in trial. That time would have rather been used to what? Get into negotiations about what? Trying to pay back that money. I am pleading with AG Godfrey Dame. Atu Essien did not spend the money alone. We don't have any sacred cows when it comes to the issue of recovering our money. If we can recover all the money from Mr. Atu Essien, all the best. But if you look at the report of Pricewater and others, there is clear evidence of how the money was shared and by whom. We should not have any sacred cows when it comes to the issue of accountability. And so we call upon him to go beyond just the chief executive officer and put before court every single director of Capital Bank who directly or indirectly benefited from the monies that were put there by way of depositors' monies or the monies that came from the central bank to support and shore up the activities of Capital Bank. I also pray for him that he's able to go after all the others, including the microfinance companies, and recover as much of those monies as possible. Because I believe that if we are able to use the prosecutorial powers of the Attorney General to get these directors to sell their assets, because some of them were living lives way beyond their means, and it should be a lesson that being a director of a financial institution is not the panacea to your economic problems. As a director, you have fiduciary responsibilities, and those fiduciary responsibilities come at great cost
and duty of care. And
so when you are offered appointments as directors of some of these financial institutions and you don't have the requisite knowledge and capacity, do not accept them. Stay away and let those with the proper competence, financial competence and integrity handle these institutions. This financial sector issues could have literally collapsed our banking sector. And so it must be of the utmost interest for government and the Attorney General's office to pursue each and every person whose activities directly or indirectly contributed towards this. I think that the sentence, however harsh, in criminal law we have various theories of punishment. One of it is deterrence. And I think the judge in his pronouncement made it clear that this is not one of the common cases of stealing. He also gave him a leeway that whilst in prison, if you are able to pay up the differences, you walk away. So perhaps he has to double and triple his efforts to what? To pay. Whilst, of course, there's always bail on appeal. And if you can demonstrate good faith by maybe making further payments and showing to the court that you have a clear plan and calendar to pay. Because as for us as citizens, our interest is for the money to be collected so that the monies that were lent by government by way of what? bonds and others can be redeemed, because of course if we can collect all the money from all the various directors and things and sell their assets and we can recover, the government do not need to have floated or can redeem the bonds that have been floated, and we'll get some economic stability. So those are my comments in respect of Mr. Atuesian's.
Is it true that former President Mahama indicates that he will grant Atuesian pardon?
Patent falsehood. He has not said this anywhere, and everybody who says this must be, that comment must be treated with utmost contempt.
He shouldn't politicize.
He has never said this anywhere. What he said previously was that for bank owners who genuinely, you understand, had regulatory issues that had nothing to do with, mismanagement and others, but in some instances we question the basis upon which their licenses were taken away. A special example is it Heritage Bank, the one that was run by Alaji, Heritage Bank. That was one of the examples where it wasn't about liquidity challenge. It was about the fact that somebody was on trial and that the source of his funds were now questionable. How someone innocent until proven guilty, well, but those are issues that are still in court. So let's leave it at that. For me, aside those clear instances where we can allegedly read issues of, wrongful exercise of discretionary power, in my opinion, where there is clear evidence, and this one, and let's also be fair, in this instance, Mr. Atuesian himself entered into a plea bargain where he admitted guilt. That is also very important to be put down. Nobody put a gun to his head. He admitted that he was guilty of all the charges. And so once he has admitted guilt, we have moved into a different era. It is different from somebody who is on trial and is also or still insisting on his innocence. In this particular instance, the man had pleaded guilty. And so we then treat him as a convict. And once you treat him as a convict, the ramifications are a bit different.
Okay, Auntie Gloria, you wanted to come in
I think he said basically what I wanted to say. I was going to indicate that I still believe the legislation should be amended to protect staff and clients. However, it's also important that the institution is left to stand, so that there should be a separation between the directors and the institution, and then a burden should be placed on the directors so that they'll know that if anything goes wrong, they are not going with all the people in the institutions, but the directors, have a particular burden placed on them, and they are going to suffer any punishment or punitive measure for the, unfair situations or illegal situations that occurs in their institutions. So to put an extra burden on directors.
All right. Final thoughts, Kwame Jantor and then Antoinette, and we move on to something else.
With regards to this case,
yes.
I think a lot has been said. I don't think I have much to say, but is it likely that he's going to be able to pay this money? And I didn't see that bit by the judge in terms of if he's able to pay in prison.
Oh, it is there. It's part of the reportage. I got that. He would immediately, he makes payments, he redeems payment, he will go. It's not a sentence. It's a sentence being imposed for failure to meet and honor the terms of the
plea bargaining.
And so the deal is still in place. You pay, you walk out.
So the plea bargaining is still in place.
Yes.
The plea bargaining hasn't been eroded.
No. It's the failure to comply with the terms that's now activated.
Where has this whole scenario of how Atuesian has been treated, it hasn't been repeated anywhere before, has it?
In terms of how he's been treated?
In terms of, okay, he pleaded not guilty, then he now pleaded guilty. He was convicted, but it was held because of the plea bargaining and now sentencing. And they've even come to say that if, because of the plea bargain, he can pay, he'll go free. Where has it happened in our jurisprudence before?
Well, it depends on your...
So is this a new way of being able to retrieve monies? And will it be only done in the private sector, or will it also be done for politicians who have, in some way?
The provision has always been there. That section of the Criminal Procedure Act, it's always been there. If you are prepared to take advantage of it,
that is there.
And
I'm
so-
sure others are.
And so
are
will
taking
we
advantage of it.
use it for politicians too?
Oh, sure. Why not?
We will,
Why not?
even though their situation is different.
It is not about. See, the thing is this.
Isn't it about?
Most of the charges against politicians are about causing financial loss to the state.
Yes.
So the state is deemed to have suffered a certain loss.
Yes.
If the person is prepared, for example, to make what is the word? To make
Reparation.
That's actually the section. If you are prepared to make reparation for the allegation that is against you, why not? Because at the end of the day, if we put you in prison, we are supposed to feed you, take care of you, your medical bills, everything. You are actually a liability on the state.
So are we then saying that the fact that you have been put in a position of trust and you are not supposed to do what you have done,
Yes.
that clause should apply?
Well, it depends.
I
on-
don't see how.
No, you see, what is the essence? of
Otherwise,
putting-
politicians would go and do the things that they are not supposed to do and then depend on that clause to go
But
free.
what is the interest of the state? Is the interest of the state not recovering the loss?
Is that
has-
the only interest?
So if it
cannot
depends.
be the only
But you see,
interest.
the attorney general and
It
the
cannot be
state.
the only interest.
The attorney general and the state have a certain responsibility. You understand? It is supposed to be an agreement. So if one party does not agree to it, then it won't happen. So of course, if, for example, if you go and murder somebody as a politician, you understand? That for me will not fall under one of the
No,
situations.
I'm
where you
talking
can make
about
request.
the financial.
It's about financial.
Exactly.
Yes, you see, I'm not saying that it should be a formula for people to go and loot state coffers and then come back and say that you see, in most situations, when we are doing these kinds of high-profile prosecutions, let's look at the history. It is about the fact that a lot of times it is not about the fact that the person has stolen money. How many? I think in history, the only person who has been convicted for stealing has been Malam Issa.
But causing financial loss to
Causing
the state.
financial loss to the state.
What does
has
that
been,
mean?
No, causing financial. If you look at the case law,
Oh, yes.
causing financial loss is not about stealing.
Yeah.
It's about any act of yours, whether direct or indirect, that has occasioned some loss
Yes.
to the state.
Yes.
So your intent is even immaterial.
Yes.
You
yes.
understand? And
But
so-
there's a loss.
Yes.
But there's a loss.
So
but,
once there's a
necessarily
you benefiting personally.
some have.
Oh,
Those
well,
who have.
You see,
So
it is
let's
difficult
wrap
to
up.
it is difficult to prove that portion. So for me, I'm always for recovering the monies that have been lost to them, because that is at law and in the general interest of the state. We say you have caused some loss to the state. Sometimes it is not direct. For example, Bank of Ghana governor, if there's a change of government, I think he's a high candidate for what? For causing financial loss by printing monies that we say was in excess of what he was legally mandated for. He may not have benefited personally, you understand? But we're saying that, for example, his lack of exercise of due diligence would have occasioned some loss. Is that an instance? If he's prepared to give Ghana back the money that we lost, why should I put him in prison? It makes no sense.
So you don't think there should be any penal?
Let me give you another example. What do you call it? The airport issue with Frontiers. If at the end of the day, the managing director for airport company, who signed the contract between airport company and Frontiers, and made Ghana earn 7 million and Frontiers earn whatever, if at the end of the day you charge out a person for causing financial loss, and the person says that, well, I'm prepared to, or Frontiers comes and says, I'm prepared to refund what we believe should have come to the state of Ghana, why should I imprison the person? It makes no sense. We need the money to develop Ghana. That money can build, for example, the money that was given to Frontiers, if you calculate, can build another terminal for us.
Should that be all? I believe there has to be some penal responsibility.
So between the terminal, extra terminal that you get, and putting the managing director of Frontiers in prison, which one would you take?
I'll take both.
Ah, well.
All right, Antoinette. final thoughts. We need to move on.
Well, I think that a lot has been said on this, and as I said from the beginning, the whole Atwisian issue brings a new light, or not new light, but is it a freshness? Not a freshness, but again another
trajectory
area or trajectory to the whole banking sector reforms and the collapse and etc. People need to be held responsible and accountable for what happened in the banking sector. That people lost savings, deposits. I mean, that there has to be that responsibility, and it shouldn't just end with him. Let's see what else comes. And I think I will join Papu in congratulating the Attorney General in being very resilient, consistent, and pursuing this case until we have seen the fact that someone is now being held accountable for what.
Retrieving that 37 million.
All right.
Retrieving 37 was also quite, but we hope that more of it can be received. Because obviously, until a lot of it is retrieved,
so that the depositors will be paid. They are the ones today. The deposit. Some of the depositors are at the Ministry of Finance picketing and sleeping there for 3 days, 4 days. Some of this money should be released to them.
All right. The Frontiers issue you mentioned is not before any court. So.
I'm saying I made the futuristic. That if in such a situation.
No problem.
It wasn't to accuse them of.
Yes.
I said if in
just so that
future,
yes,
somebody makes.
Yes. So we just need to put it out.
No,
there,
not at all. Not at all.
Yes. So we're moving on to our next topic, which has to do with the special prosecutor and matters arising in respect of the Cecilia Dapaah case. So the OSP, or the special prosecutor Kissi Agyabeng, has petitioned the Chief Justice for the judge hearing the case of the OSP against Cecilia Dapaah, that's Justice Edward Chum, to recuse himself from the entire case. Justice Edward Chum disclosed this when his court duly constituted to hear the application of the ASP, which is essentially praying the court to confirm the OSP's decision to seize some $590,000 it discovered in Cecilia Dapaah's home after a search, and also the freezing of 2 bank accounts belonging to Cecilia Dapaah. And this is what the judge said in open court, that I have received a letter that the OSP has written to the Chief Justice that I recuse myself from the case. We should take a date to await the decision of the Chief Justice on the petition, Justice Edward Chum said in open court. Though lawyers from the OSP did not show up in court at all. However, Ms. Cecilia Dapaah, her husband, and their lawyers led by Victoria Bath were in court. And the lawyer, when she stood up to address the court, said that in respect of the information regarding the applicant's petition to the Chief Justice that the judge recuses himself from the matter, it was disappointing that, having regard to the adverse effect that the pending application has on the first respondent, he did not even deem it fit to give them notice of the petition, and that it was regrettable that the petition should come so late in the day when no prior indication or complaint had been made regarding the judge's capacity, competence, or integrity in dealing with the matter. She went on, and I quote, "We see it without prejudice to the merit of this petition as a deliberate ploy to frustrate this morning's hearing and a desperate attempt to avoid his own ill-fitted application. Nevertheless, the inevitable cannot be avoided, and there shall be a day of reckoning." Justice Edward Chum, after listening and recording the lawyer, adjourned sitting to Thursday, 18th October 2023, with the hope that by that time the Chief Justice would have attended to the petition of the OSP for the case to take its natural course. We had already heard earlier in the week that the OSP and the Federal Bureau of Investigation had initiated concurrent inquiries into the activities of Cecilia Dapaah and her associates, and these investigations primarily focus on examining their assets and financial transactions within the United States of America, and that this collaborative effort is to ascertain the lawfulness of Ms. Dapaah and her associates' wealth, both in the context of their funds transitioning from Ghana to the U.S. and vice versa. So these are some of the issues in relation to the OSP and former Minister of Sanitation, Cecilia Dapaah. I'll start with you, Gloria. What do you make of this, first and foremost, the petition by the OSP to the Chief Justice to ask the judge to recuse himself from the hearing the matter?
I think under the Act, the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 959/2017, the Special Prosecutor has powers to investigate alleged or suspected corruption-related offences. But in this matter, I'll beg to hold my peace, because I think the OSP, in performing his functions, is now, there's so much media reportage And every day we are bombarded with this Cecilia Dapa case, and sometimes I wonder if that is the only duty or function that the OSP is performing. So I don't want to comment on it. Moreover, the perspective or the report that the FBI is also involved. I don't have the legal information on the FBI's participation or involvement, even though I know of what the OSP is supposed to do. But can we have a bit of a freeze of this? Because I think the OSP is doing other jobs and not just focusing on one case, and it's quite disheartening for some of us. We are like, can't there be a freeze? Can't we just wait for investigations to go on uninterrupted before we are finally given the information than to be bombarded daily? It's too much. It's too much, and sometimes you wonder what is, true or false about what is going on. There's too much media information. So can the OSP give us a freeze? The last time I came here, I indicated that can we have a freeze on the media reportage for a while so that we know that serious investigations are ongoing. And then with respect to the recuse, I know that if a lawyer feels there's bias or some aspect which is unfair in respect to the judge who is sitting on a case and so does not believe the judge will come up with a fair decision, then they can apply to they can petition the CJ, the Chief Justice, to move the case to another court with the belief that the other judge will be more fair. I don't know if there have been matters which have arisen in that respect, and that is why the OSP has applied to the Chief Justice or has petitioned the Chief Justice to change judges or change courts. But well, we leave that to him. But please, can we get a freeze? We are just tired. Is that all the job he's doing? When you look at its mandate under Act 959, that's not all he has to do. So
but there's a public interest angle to this. That's probably why
sometimes the news comes out and then the next time we are told it's fake news, then the next time there's an explanation. What is going on? We need to take him seriously.
So you think he's not doing what he's supposed to do?
No, I just think that the media is too much. The intervention, the reportage, and the fact that we kept getting conflicting reports is too much. And I don't think that if he wants to perform his duties under Act 959, he should just be, getting the media out. Already, I see that law as very limiting and restricting on the functions of the OSP, because every step of the way he has to go to court to apply, to take one step, to take two steps. And I remember in my administrative law class, I asked the students that, do you think the OSP is, he needs some independence, or he has that independence to act, and a lot of people came up with discussions of the legislation. Every step he has to go to court and ask for permission, every step. And then apart from the president appointing him, even the AG, the Attorney General, has also the discretion to appoint an OSP. So even there, you start seeing, you start wondering what's going on here. If the Attorney General has the discretion to appoint the OSP, then it means the special prosecutor, then it means he can always appoint someone who is his favorite, and the person will be so obligated or so appreciative that he can't do much without the AG. And so you wonder whether the independence of the OSP is not even compromised from the date of the appointment. So please, he should let us see. He should let us see him doing more than just one case and giving us conflicting reports.
All right, Kwame.
The OSP's office is equivalent to a court, isn't it?
No.
What is it? It has powers. It has some powers of a court.
No, it doesn't have powers of a court.
So correct me. His powers are quite extensive.
Yes, mainly investigative and prosecutorial.
But limiting every step of the way he has to go to court.
That I don't have. I don't have a problem there.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that.
I think that's an issue.
I don't have a problem with that. My challenge is that is the medium for discussing such things on Facebook. Is that where he should have posted it?
He's giving updates.
Yeah, but is it
On
Facebook?
But we're in the 21st century. Information
When you look at
dissemination
his office,
is done across multiple platforms, and the public has an interest in some of these.
the public
things.
has an interest. But when you look at the issues under discussion, shouldn't it be the kind of issue where he goes right to the Chief Justice, sits with the Chief Justice, and explains reasons why?
No, but a petition has been sent.
Wait.
So once a petition has been sent to the Chief Justice, it's already done. It wasn't as if before the petition was being sent, then he came to announce to the world that I am sending a petition to the Chief Justice to ask the judge.
So
to
he sent the
himself.
petition
We only
before he
found
came-
out.
Wait.
Yes, in
He
the
sent-
morning. On the morning
Wait,
of,
wait.
it was the judge that disclosed the fact that the petition had been sent to the Chief Justice asking him to recuse himself from the case, and so he's adjourning sitting to wait for the decision of the Chief Justice, and then subsequently it was put out on and I mean, court is a public place. There are journalists, there are people who go there with information.
So leave it
So
there.
it'll be public
So
knowledge.
leave it there. Leave it there.
But what's wrong
If
with
that public-
informing the public that this
But
is
the
what-
public will get to know. The public got to know. You got to know from the proceedings of the court, didn't you?
No, I got to know from the post of the OSP.
The face, I don't understand why the OSP always has to use Facebook to post things. I don't understand that. When you look at his office and how sensitive his office can be, I don't see it.
No,
you
but-
don't get see. It is not Mr. Isia Jebel's personal Facebook page.
I know.
This is the
I
problem.
know.
And every organization must have a communication tool in the 21st century.
Yes, it's Facebook.
No, he's on Twitter, he's on Facebook.
Yeah, it's
they have a
across social media
communication
platforms,
department, and they give out updates. You remember, under the law, they have the statutory duty to inform the public
I know.
every 6
I
months.
know,
about
but
what's
is it
happening.
Facebook?
He's doing.
No,
Is
it's
it
not-
Facebook?
job he's
So
doing.
is he trying to tell us that? Wait.
The rest of the media, everything goes to
Pick it,
from
and
Facebook.
then they interpret it in the way they want to interpret
how they
it.
Do you rather want the media to misrepresent?
No.
Don't give out the media.
Yes,
proper press
yes,
statement.
press press statement.
The
Press
21st century.
statement.
You are saying that an
But
organization
it's a
that
press
is
statement.
functioning in the 21st century
there-
should not have a social media presence.
Nobody is saying.
Nobody's saying that is the way. No,
They are
it's the way that
tired
is
of
being
what they are
communicated.
saying and the correction.
And you know,
So
one of the problems
So
I
I see
have
that.
about this is the misconceptions that are allowed to breed and grow
okay.
and take root and take seed, and then it
Might even
flourishes
have
into
nothing to do with the
everyone
case.
having- and then very soon, oh no, TV3's reportage was wrong. No, my joy online. You know,
Ah,
and
but-
then
but that's
it
not the
goes back
OSP's
and
fault.
forth
It's not
eventually
OSP's fault.
until now.
We deserve
That's not
better.
It
OSP.
is the medium he uses. It's the medium he uses.
Comes out to issue-
It's the medium he uses.
As
He could
far
have
as
put out
OSP
a press
comes out
statement.
to issue one statement, and then the case takes a different turn, and the OSP doesn't come out to issue another. You allow misconception. So if you want to be consistent, fine. Even if you want to keep using your Facebook, be consistent in giving us the information.
Yes,
in
but
such
they
a
have been
manner that
consistent.
They have been very
you know
consistent.
what? There have been several times, and there have been several times when the whole thing, everybody is
Which one?
So
when initially
which one?
when Mrs. Dapa's house was said, Mr. Dapa's house was said, they said, oh, there was more money. There was 570 more found there. There was this.
But
there was
that didn't
you know,
come
but
from
all
the
of
OSP.
that, it didn't come from the OSP, but you went to search. You didn't come out with a
But he's
statement.
giving
And people
you,
came
he's
out.
telling you
Then you came
the
out with more
information that.
statements.
So the point is, he
You know,
gave out
there's
the
something
information
that the
he
judge
wanted.
asked that day, and I kept also asking myself, I kept saying that he said that if the OSP is in doubt about the true ownership of the alleged tainted property found in Ms. Dapa's house, and he has failed to convince the court that this is, then why is he freezing it?
No, but we are not discussing the
No,
merits.
I'm
of the
just,
merits.
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm-
No,
I'm
she-
leaving
you let
that
her make a
because
point.
then afterwards, the OSP applies that the judge should be recused from the case.
That's a different.
That's a different issue.
You are talking about. So hold on. You are talking about whether or not he's right to give out information on
No,
media.
So she wants to
No, I'm
segue
just
into
saying that all
another-
of these
she-
things
she-
come out on the social media.
But if
we
Let me
don't get explanations. We don't. You understand?
I
where
was
I'm
coming there.
That's where I was
I
coming.
was
so
coming
you
there.
We
let-
don't
let's-
get
let's-
explanations.
I was
we don't
I
get
was
anything.
You hold on.
when it gets to your when it gets to your turn when it gets to your turn you say your own knee, so you hold on.
Yeah, so let's
So you hold
let's
on.
go
So-
to finish.
But you understand what
Yes, I
I'm
get
saying?
what
I'm
you're
coming
saying.
So if he's put this out on Facebook, Why doesn't he put the reasons why the judge should be recused on Facebook for us? Why doesn't he do that?
He gave some indication.
Why doesn't he? I haven't seen it here.
He didn't put out the letter.
He should put it. He should put it there.
But why
He should put it there.
Why should he put that one there?
No, so
You are
so the
able to
point-
tell us on
no,
Facebook
no,
that the judge should recuse himself, and you don't give us reasons.
Isn't this about transparency?
Exactly.
The OSP has written to the Chief Justice
Yes.
that please remove this judge or let this judge should recuse himself from
Leave it
this
there.
case, and has given
Don't
Leave
reasons
it there.
to the Chief
Leave it
Justice.
there.
Yes,
Leave
yeah,
it there.
Yes.
Leave
and
it
has
there.
given reasons to the Chief Justice why.
Yes.
Yes.
He doesn't have to come and tell us the reasons.
Then he shouldn't also come and tell us on Facebook that he should be
But
recused.
we already know because it came out in
So
open
then,
court.
so leave it
And that's
there.
what I'm
So I'm
talking
saying
about.
leave it there.
He's giving you
Allow
an
Leave
amendment
it there.
case.
Leave it there.
For speculation.
Leave it there.
Let's deal
Because
with this.
if I want to then tie it to what the judge said on 31st, the media, you come out
Can't tell the media what to say.
You can exactly what I'm
Aha.
But you are then
They
giving
can put
room
in misinformation.
for
It's rather, I find it more
You are
difficult.
giving room for
No, hold on.
people to
I find it more
speculate
difficult.
and
that-
make, you know,
A public entity
to
will
link
not say
issues
anything
to
at all.
Let me ask you a
I don't
question.
like silence.
Let me ask you a
One
question.
at a time,
Let me
yeah.
ask you a question. You took today's newspaper, right?
Yes.
It's there. Eh? Open it.
Yes, I've seen it.
Open it. No, open it. Open
Yeah,
it.
95.
What is there? What is the heading?
Special prosecutor files the press judge.
No. The Atuesian one. What does it say?
Christian jailed 95 years for
Was he jailed for 95
No.
years? Is that right?
But
Is that
the
right?
reportage. So
I said, is
why-
that right? Is that right?
No.
He wasn't jailed for 90, and that's the point we are making.
But has
That
he
the-
said anything that is legally
I
wrong?
said.
That's my problem. How do you?
But
get
that
someone
isn't-
who
that
has
isn't the
put
truth.
Clearly, a reporter that refuses to educate him or herself.
Aha,
As
there
opposed-
you go.
No, yes.
So
Yes,
you-
no,
so-
there are
so-
journalists who put out the correct thing. They are very
And there are
good
journalists who don't put out the correct
Hold on.
thing,
They are
and that's
very-
the point I'm
because
making.
Their stations don't want to invest in the
We
journalists.
will beg to differ.
Those
So
journalists-
we will beg to
No.
differ.
But
We will beg to differ.
tell them the journalists who
We
are
will
who
beg
don't-
to
who don't write
differ.
this.
We will beg to differ.
Yeah.
We will beg to differ.
I just
Let's
want
beg
to
to
say-
differ.
Invest in them. Send them
Let's
to school.
beg to
that
differ.
under the act, what do you call it, 959, okay, the special prosecutor can be removed from office if there's a breach. Okay, he can be removed from the office if there's a breach of his adherence or violation of the official oath or oath of secrecy. Those are one of the foundations or grounds by which a person can petition the president to remove the special prosecutor from office. So please, I will humbly plead with him that in posting things on Twitter and Facebook, Twitter is now X, Twitter, Facebook, and what have you, he should be careful that he does not breach any of his, duties or violate his duties or the official oath or oath of secrecy. Otherwise, anyone can petition the
Yeah,
president
but-
for his
you know
removal.
what? I think
Because I'm getting very jittery,
Yes, you see,
and
I think
I will humbly recommend that there's a freeze on this, reportage. And we also want to see that that's not the only case he's working on.
No, but wait.
there
I have a
is-
question.
there
So,
is- there
is it- it's a public
Now it's
institution.
about-
It's a public institution. Almost all the public, even ministries, have
Yes,
Facebook
have Facebook
accounts,
and social media
have
pages.
social media accounts.
need
They
to
post
inform the public
updates
in the
on what
21st
they're
century.
doing and
Right.
all that. Are we saying that by virtue of the fact that the OSP is publishing updates
Yes.
on a case which is a matter of public
In fact, he even
interest,
publishes
that he's
daily
breaching
reports on
anything?
what happened in the cases. That is very good.
What we hear are the so-called updates, which later become fake news, and all the corrections that he's running out
He's not
there,
running any correction.
scrambling
I'm yet to see the
inform the
the
public
the
that
OSP
this
give
is,
a
he never
rejoinder.
said that,
Give
or
a
he did
rejoinder.
that.
Or
I
If-
just
if
hope
the
that he
OSP
does not violate any official
If the
oath
OSP
or oath of secrecy.
wants to
Otherwise,
inform-
the president can be petitioned
wants to
revoke his
wants to
appointment.
inform the people of Ghana and wants to give detailed information, you should have a press conference. Simple.
That is not the only way in the 21st century by which you put out.
Stop this 21st century thing and let's
Why are we sitting on? Why are we sitting on?
So in this age where even television People, there are stations that don't broadcast
let me
digital platforms.
let me ask
on
you a
Facebook.
question. But listen, let me ask you a question. Why did you come to the station today? When you were on Zoom last week, why didn't you stay there and let's have the program? Why did you stay there? And when you came today, what did you say? It's good to be back in the studio. No, it's good to be back. So please.
So when you had COVID, you were still holding.
Oh, please let me finish. That was COVID. That was the reason. The reason here. Look. Let me finish. The question is not on the 21st century. Look,
let's not lose sight of the conversation that we're having. We're talking about
this Cecilia Dapa's case. It should be investigated to the letter T. It has to be, and it has to be done in the right way, that nobody now feels something untoward is going on. We need to be given reasons why the special prosecutor thinks or feels that the judge should be recused. Do we know why? Is that information, does it have to be privy information? There's a huge public interest in this case. And you don't think that the special prosecutor should be able to tell the people of Ghana why the judge should be recused? Or is it special between he and the petition he sent to the Chief Justice? I think if the special prosecutor wants to act, and wants to act very well in terms of information, delivering information to the people of Ghana, he should be quite open and give us reasons why. Do you know why the judge should be recused?
Why?
I'm asking you. Do you know why? Do you know why the judge should be recused?
Well, he has given his reasons. At least some of the reasons are that.
Did he give reasons?
What reasons?
There are reasons.
They may be special to you because I haven't heard.
No, there are reasons.
Because I haven't heard. Have you heard?
But the petition was to the Chief Justice, wasn't to us.
How are you sitting here agreeing to the fact that
let's
put on Facebook that the judge should be recused?
Yeah, but let's agree.
The moment, wait.
On his Facebook post, he says that the judge has been biased towards the office and himself.
Should give us reasons.
So read the judgment.
Should give us reasons.
See, the point is, have you read the judgment?
No,
His problem is that
which of the judgments?
The ruling. The ruling in respect of the first ruling that came out, asking him to
return the money.
He's aggrieved. I never said it was not linked. But the man himself has said that the sitting judge is biased towards him, against him and his office. And he gives reasons. And his other problem, I am sure, based on the fact that we are all practitioners, is the fact that it's the same judge who is going to sit on both the criminal and the civil case. He has a problem. He clearly has a problem. If you were the lawyer, you will have the same problem.
So if it so happens that the judge is changed and the next judge who comes, he finds the same reasons, he will keep changing judges.
The procedure,
he should find a way.
The procedure, both law is both about procedure and about substance.
Yes.
I will have a problem if one judge has sat on a matter and then later on that same judge is going to sit on another matter involving the same person. Obviously, are you telling me that you don't have a problem?
Are you trying to tell me that if the Chief Justice comes and decides that no, the judge is okay, what will happen?
He has an option. That is why you have both an administrative and a legal option. You can bring a formal application and even go as far as the Supreme Court. Opening's case, didn't we see it?
Yeah.
We saw it. They did both the administrative and the legal. And in one instance, the courts agreed with the person.
And then we will be swaying from the material case.
The procedure is as equally important as the substance of what you move.
For me, I believe that he should be able to give us reasons why. I don't think so.
Says the request is grounded on the OSP's well-founded belief.
Exactly.
That Justice Edward
What is the well-founded belief?
What do
you mean it's his opinion? What is his opinion? What's his opinion?
Can we all have
public interest in here?
All right. So this is what it says. It says the request is grounded. Nobody can hear any of you. The request is grounded on the OSP's well-founded belief that Justice Edward Chum appears to be highly prejudiced against the OSP and the person of the special prosecutor. Consequently, as it stands, the OSP would not and cannot be reasonably expected to be parties to proceedings before the said judge. And that is what the post said.
Okay, let's see how it travels. Let's see how it travels. I will beg to differ, but let's see how it
I know
travels.
you are going to come to me, but you know what I will say. You file to freeze, then the judge unfreezes,
Exactly.
then you file a second.
Exactly.
Take your time and get, you know, because at night you are putting out and you are doing it's too
No, but
you know, because you tend to now confuse the public. So you put one statement, then you
Then put another statement. Then do exactly.
I have a lot of faith in the office of the OSP, of the officer, and I believe that it is one of the MPP's strong points in ensuring that we fight corruption. But we also want an OSP that gives us a lot of a firm belief.
It is one thing having an OSP office and one thing having the person who runs it.
Exactly. So we want that.
Two different
and for
things.
now, for you to freeze the assets and then they order you
frozen.
and the justification for unfreezing, he wasn't able to prove. And the judge puts it. Have you been able? And you then start creating more doubt, you know, and issues. And the Sidadapa issue is a sensitive issue. Mr. Pass issue is a sensitive issue. It has been something that has been is still in the media space. It's been carried so widely. So I think we need to be a little bit more, you know, take a bit more caution and take a step back so that we don't have freeze and freeze.
no, but you can be.
That part of it for me started getting to me.
Yeah, but you can be, for instance, you can be an accused person. You can be discharged by the court,
and then
immediately you leave the premises.
Yeah,
you are arrested again.
So this time, when you're arrested and you're charged again, you need to have more on the. So you file for it, and then the judge said, "Look, I'm not in the law court, and I'm not this thing." But that part of it for me was like, why are we freezing and freezing?
You see, you know what? I criticized one of my first reactions to when he went the way he did in terms of collecting the money back there that very day. I criticized. I really said it could amount to contempt of court. I criticized that particular move, but it doesn't mean that when he does or when he has a genuine issue with a procedural step, and I think that there's merit in it, I should also say that no, I have a problem. If any, and as a practitioner, if I have the same judge who has made a pronouncement in respect of a particular matter involving the same party, I refile my matter, and it appears before the same person involving the same district. He has made a pronouncement. I will have apprehension. Again, I file a criminal process, and it goes before the same judge. Obviously, I would want to have another person give me another opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You understand? And that is part of the constitutional and statutory protections that are afforded the accused person. So in as much as the OSP has statutory responsibilities and powers, the constitution and the statute itself also makes him accountable to the courts. That is the balance.
Did you ever think that we should change the judge that was sitting on Atuesian's case?
Did he have a reason? He hadn't sat on any other previous matter involving Atuesian.
So
that's the difference.
There was
So
for me, that's the issue. And for me, Gio, I'm not saying that. I mean, look, when it comes to the OSP's methodology of investigating this particular matter, as a former prosecutor, I can clearly see one thing: he needs or he wants more time. So if you look at it, he's gone for the LI. If he had a substantive offense, do you think he would have been spending time on the LI of the fact that she had failed to disclose her income? Clearly, the man is still investigating. His style of investigating,
but doesn't that go to what Antoinette is saying?
That take your time.
He does not need any style of investigating. He must go by the rules, by the legislation, by the provisions. Please. Otherwise, we won't be using our own style. Let me land. There's no statute.
There's no statute on investigations. How somebody investigates a matter, so long as he's not violating your rights.
He needs more time. You should apply to the court that he needs more time.
The legislation provides that a freezing order remains in force until the order is discharged revoked,
Yes.
reviewed, or varied.
Correct.
But he has to go back to the
No,
court.
I said, you don't say he's not going back to the
What
court.
is the
What I'm
problem?
saying is that.
And so he can go back
time,
to
go
the
back.
same court.
Have you seen the
He can
publication
go
on
back
Ghana
to the
Web on
same
this
court,
story?
Please, why am I
presided
going to
over
Ghana
by
Web?
the
I
same
don't-
judge.
But it's a social media. It's a social media.
21st
That one is 21st century. It's 21st century.
Did I go to social
Isn't it 21st century?
Go and look at what they've
Under
titled
section
it.
43.
Yeah.
OSP
Can go back to the
desperate
same
over
court.
ill-fated application.
For the order, and the same judge for the order
he
to
shouldn't
be
be subject to
discharged,
criticism.
revoked, reviewed, or varied.
Even the president is.
It's not a big deal going back to the same court and the same judge for the order.
I think you are getting something wrong.
reviewed
See,
or varied.
you are getting something wrong.
I don't see
No,
what
I
is
think you are-
wrong with going back to the
No, I
same
think
court.
you are-
But would
Based
you
on the
would you agree that if you say in the shoes of the OSP and you brought this matter before this court and this judge, and some pronouncements have been made which you deem or interpret to be an attack at your person or some bias against you and the office, would you be comfortable with the same case or another aspect of the case
I
going to this same
indicated-
person who you
I-
feel has
I
expressed?
indicated earlier on that normally a petition is made to the Chief Justice
Yes.
for a change of judge when you believe there's some unfairness.
Yeah.
That's one way.
And you are also of the view that if the judge is allowed to continue with the case, there will be some unfair ruling or judgment. Okay,
That's
I
one
said
way.
that.
That's one way.
But then I go back to the point that he was saying that can you go back to the same judge for different for the same what do you call it, on the same matter? And I'm saying that the OSP can go to the same judge where the need arises under the legislation for a variation or a review or discharge or revocation of a decision by the court. That's just an answer. There's nothing wrong with going back to the same judge. But then if there's a reason why he feels that the judge, there's some unfairness or bias or what do you call it? You know, a fear of bias, then he can.
But you see, I think lawyer.
But there's nothing wrong with going back to the same judge for all these.
No, you see, I think
positions.
lawyer. The judge actually made an order that.
And we don't
there
even
was-
have his reasons.
No, the ruling is there. The ruling is out. It's been out for a long time. Oh, I'm
The
sorry you don't.
reasons for the OSP
Yes.
asking for the petition, the reasons that.
Oh,
he
no,
has
not about the
proposed.
petition. I'm talking about.
me, what someone is
Otherwise,
saying, and I
he can
think
go to the same
I
judge
think
for
let me
every step of the
before
way.
you come in, let me read this comment because it ties in with what Anti-Gloria is saying. So Maxwell Pia Danko is saying it seems Nipapo is not interested about what Gloria has repeated several times. That Cecilia, the past case is not the only case the OSP is investigating.
You see, the OSP's office was set up to go after high-profile corruption and corruption-related matters. This is one of the high-profile ones. Now, the issues, and yes, and the distinction must be made. Hold on, a distinction must be made
Airbus.
between. Oh, that one is your opinion. A distinction must be made between the investigation of the crime of alleged criminal offense and the issues of the freezing. I think people confuse the two. The OSP has a responsibility to first and foremost ensure that he has underlying charges, okay, that will give him the right to freeze. That apparently, I think, is the weakness in respect of this particular case. If you read the decision of the judge is saying that, well, you must prove to me that you have the ruling. You must prove to me that you are investigating some corruption or corruption-related matters involving the woman, and for which you are suspicious, or alleged, and you are clear in your mind that you have a sufficient prima facie basis to bring a freezing order. That is, I think, the biggest weakness in respect of this particular case. Exactly. So that is probably the hurdle that the special prosecutor is facing. His ability to show that he has sufficient evidence on concrete enough to convince a judge that he is investigating a corruption or corruption-related activity involving
Alleged or
the.
suspected.
And so, for the first time, he has now brought this charge that he has served the former minister, with a notice to produce some records or evidence in respect of income, and she has failed to do so. Well, that is another matter. Let the court deal with it. But I think that his as a party in these matters, he has a right to expect both procedural and substantive fairness, as any other accused person would want same to be done to him or her. So I don't see why anybody will have a problem if he is taking advantage of legal processes available to a party to a case to be able to ensure that at the end of the day he believes that he has obtained justice, even as a prosecutor. I think, yes, if you read Martin Amidou's recent epistle, he criticizes the method by which the OSP is going about his work. I have also had problems. I think that for me, as being a prosecutor, I said that, look, make sure you have everything before you launch. And sometimes, if you don't have everything and you launch because of feelings and speculation, sometimes you have to pinch yourself as a prosecutor or as an investigator to be sure that the docket is properly, baked.
And not always come on Facebook and give snippets, just snippets.
This Facebook thing here.
Just give snippets.
I see that it is worrying.
Don't give snippets.
See,
be concrete.
One of the things also about this, and I think perhaps
this is
he's also looking at the fact that it is highly possible that the alleged ill-gotten money may disappear by the time he's completed.
How?
Well, that is
how.
That perhaps
then he should let us know if that is what he thinks. So,
at least he's taking one step, which I'm happy about. This issue of the income, income form, because obviously, if you're a public officer, you must be able to show your sources of income and justification and all that. So that's the first step. Let Madam Cecilia also provide the information that he's asking for. Remember, there's a constitutional provision that if you're a public officer, your assets. So I'm expecting him to what? Deal with or move in tandem with the office of the Auditor General to check the declared assets of Madam Cecilia Dapaah, because if the assets as declared are inconsistent with assets that are declared after you leave office, then clearly you have an issue, because the assets that would not be
I thought by now that would have been done.
Well, I'm sure it is part of, and then he also says he's gone international. He's networking with the FBI to check out perhaps about those transfers and things that are alleged to have come from persons who are outside. See, there's a lot of issues.
All these things, should he reveal it to us? Exactly. He should go ahead and do what he has to do. And when the results come out, we get to know.
Are public documents
of office.
I don't think that he's violated. If you think that he's violated it, I think you can test the law. I think sometimes we should refuse from just being commentators to testing the law. If we believe that he's violating the law, let's put him to the test and let's see whether he has indeed violated the law. He has gone in with a case. The court has slapped him down and said that no, we don't think you have enough. And remember, there's this Supreme Court case that deals with tainted assets, where the Supreme Court has stated that if you are freezing, you must be able to show that which portion of the monies you claim are tainted are what? Are actually the thing. Because if somebody has 100,000 cedis in his account, which portion of that 100,000 cedis do you say is tainted? Because you can't just make a sweeping statement. Because Yoko used to do that. And then the court had to intervene. So we need some of these cases to help our jurisprudence. The fight against corruption.
He would have to prove that.
She has rights. And I think that Madam Cecilia Dapaah is exercising her rights, going to court, fighting the case in there. And I think all of us should follow. The law, you see, it is dangerous to have mob justice, where you accuse somebody and then the person is judged by the court of public opinion before you even bring the person before a court of law. You destroy the person. So, Madam Cecilia, and I'm sure she's also filed a defamation case. All the better. Let us use the law and make sure that the law is the tool by which we get justice and we are able to see that people's rights are protected. It's a balance.
I don't think anybody's questioning that, Nee. That's the right thing to do.
Dean, that's my...
It's the right thing to do.
Antoinette.
Yes, please. You're back to me to make a comment.
Final, we're done. We're wrapping up.
Final.
Yeah.
I think that I've said a lot, and I still
And also the
hold
issue
the
of
office of the special prosecutor in very high esteem, especially because of the fact that it is very key in ensuring that corruption, which this government and administration has committed to fight, is a key aspect of this fight, and therefore we shouldn't take it for granted. And that's why it would be very very nice, or should I say it would be more well taken, if the office of the special prosecutor resorts to giving the public information on a timely basis, not consistently on Facebook, one post after the other, allow misconceptions intermittently, and then we see freeze and freeze go back. I think that confusion is something that we shouldn't be encouraging. We need information on Mr. Past case. It is something that we are
concise information
are very concerned about, and the information should be precise, so that we don't bring the office of the special prosecutor into a space where people now start saying that, are we going to take everything that they put out seriously, or is going to be a case where today it's this and then the next time it's something else? That for me is very important. Thank you.
And on this matter, I'll look at section 74 of Act 959 on the matter of confidentiality, that an authorized person who is in possession of information in the performance of functions under this act, that's under the OSP Act, and communicates the information to an unauthorized person or discloses the personal details of a person who has given information, without authority to a third person, contravenes, subsection 1 and commits an offense, and is also liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 250 penalty units, and all to a term of imprisonment. So this aspect of confidentiality, oath of secrecy, oath of office must be taken seriously. I will humbly submit, by the OSP and his staff.
Okay, all right. So OSP issues, I'm sure it will keep on going. And on 18th, this coming week, we are definitely going to hear more about this matter, because that's when the case has been adjourned to. Let's move on to our final conversation this morning on Ghana and the IMF and the signs of recovery of our economy. So the International Monetary Fund says it will not request further adjustments from Ghana before providing the second tranche of $600 million of Ghana's total bailout package. According to the IMF, Ghana has already completed its part of the work to get the board to approve the second tranche, which is expected before the end of the year. Ghana is currently negotiating with its external creditors for a debt treatment deal, which is a requirement for IMF approval for the release of the second tranche. And so we know that this past week there has been ongoing IMF and World Bank annual meetings in Morocco. And the Minister of Information, for instance, has assured the general public that the ongoing negotiations with Ghana's external creditors at the sidelines of the IMF and World Bank annual meetings in Marrakesh, Morocco, were proceeding smoothly. We have joining us via Zoom Nana Oye Ankra, who's the Deputy Business News Editor of Asase Radio, and she is in Morocco for the IMF meetings, and we're going to get her thoughts on what's been happening. Good morning, Nana Oye, and welcome to the forum on Asase Radio.
Good morning, Doc. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Can you briefly walk us through what has transpired in Morocco during the IMF meetings so far, especially where Ghana is concerned?
Right, and so let me economy because of course that has been the discussion from Monday when the meetings started, and globally, according to the IMF and the World Bank, globally economies are recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia-Ukraine war. However, the growth that we are witnessing across the world after those incidents, or after the pandemic and still the Russia-Ukraine war is ongoing, the growth after is slow and uneven. And despite economic resilience earlier this year with a reopening, rebound, and progress in reducing inflation from last year's peaks, it is too soon for all of us to take comfort or get comfortable with the kind of growth that we are seeing. And economic activity still falls short of its pre-pandemic path, especially in emerging markets and developing economies like Ghana. And there are widening divergences among regions. So in the case of Africa, for instance, we are seeing some growth. However, debt is still an overhang on a lot of countries. And so that is something that has to be addressed. And Sub-Saharan Africa is seeing the slowest growth so far. And it's a worry for both the World Bank and the IMF, and they have reviewed or revised the growth rate for the region. Now, growth globally is forecast to slow from 3.5% in 2022 to 3% in 2023. So we are likely to end this year with a growth rate of 3.0% globally, but that has been revised downward for 2024. So in 2024, we are going to see, that is the projection though, that we're going to see a 2.9% growth, which is a 1 percentage point below the growth that we are to end this year with. And so globally, it does not look really good. However, we can always look up for the best and then pray that a lot of issues will turn around. But of course, we are witnessing that conflict in Israel and Palestinian and all that, Gaza. And although we cannot measure the impact it will have on the world economy, there is still concerns that we are going to see some sort of impact, especially in the form of food coming from Israel to many parts of the world. Now, let me come to Ghana, where our finance minister is leading a delegation here at Marrakech, Morocco, for the 2023 IMF World Bank annual meetings. Now, the main objective of the finance minister has been that we are going to meet external creditors. Despite the various meetings the delegation has had with the IMF board management and the World Bank management, the key aim of coming here is to meet external creditors. And indeed, that has happened. The finance minister and his team have met some of the creditors here in March. And of course, the indication they are giving us is that the assurances have been good. They are cooperating. We are going to see some MOUs signed, and the IMF board is expected to meet in the third week of November. And so we are praying that if we get the MOU signed as with the creditors telling us, as in Ghana, that of course we are going to give you the debt relief that you need, or the financing assurances that you need, then it means that the board can conclude the review of Ghana's economy in the third week of November, and hopefully we can get that approval for the second tranche of the $3 billion package in the third week of November.
All right, so as it stands right now, from what you're saying, it means everything is on course, and the engagement with our external creditors is going well as well. And so by the third week of November, barring any unforeseen circumstances, we should have received or should be receiving that second tranche of bailout money that we we need. Is that the can we conclude that is your assessment of the situation based on all that is happening this week?
Yes, barring all circumstances, as you just mentioned, yes, we could get that approval, and then the $6 million could hit the accounts of the government of Ghana at the Bank of Ghana. But that we are not sure, because there could be some delays, and we saw that when we got the approval for the first one, or before we even got the approval, we had that delays from our external creditors, especially bilateral creditors. And so, well, we are just praying that, especially with China and our big creditors agreeing, we are praying that they will agree as soon as possible, because of course we witnessed that delays during the first time of negotiations, and that could affect the time that we are looking at, or the third week that we are looking at. But hopefully before the executive board of the IMF meets in the third week of November, we have gotten that financing assurances from our bilateral creditors and in general our external creditors, so that the board can go ahead and approve. If that does not happen, it means that we would have to wait for the next executive board meeting, so that there could be some delays, but we can only hope for the best.
Thank you very much, Nana Oye, for taking time to join us to bring us these perspectives from Marrakesh, Morocco. Thank you, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Nana Oye Ankra, who's the Deputy Business Editor at Asase Radio, and she is in Marrakesh, Morocco, covering the IMF World Bank annual meetings. Let's delve straight into our conversation on this, and I'll start once again with you, Gloria. It seems that there's good news. The money is coming. Barring all unforeseen circumstances, as we've just been told, in the third week of November, just in time for Christmas, we would receive the second tranche of the bailout money. $600 million, I believe, would hit our accounts, and this is on the back of the fact that the negotiations or engagements with our external creditors, which was necessary to sort of pave the way for this release of the second tranche of payment before it could be done, it seems to have gone well, or is going well. And from the economic indicators that we have, it seems as if generally we're on the right trajectory. Inflation, for instance, has been further reduced. I'm hearing that it is now at 38.1%, even from this past Wednesday. And so, generally speaking, things we're on the right track, are we not?
Well, I will go by what the IMF is indicating, that there were quite a number of important steps that have been taken, which are in the process of arresting the very large macroeconomic imbalances that were the root cause behind the recent crisis. So the IMF indicates that they are quite satisfied with the responses made by economic team, regulators.
Please, Gloria, read that bit again. Large imbalances.
The IMF indicated that Ghana has done their part in taking steps to arrest all the macroeconomic imbalances. And remember, these macroeconomic imbalances were the root cause of our recent economic crisis.
So was that part of Ukraine and Ukraine war?
I didn't read that yet. I didn't read about Israel or Palestine yet.
Right.
I'm just reading about the steps that have been taken. And so based on those steps which have been taken to to address all these economic imbalances, the IMF believes that Ghana is good to go and qualifies for a release of the second tranche of $600 million. So that's what has been indicated here. And I guess I can discuss that based on the premises of these indicators by the IMF, then we haven't done badly and we are good to go. Because some countries will go for the first tranche. They are not able to meet the reporting and other adjustments, criteria, and then the second tranche is not allowed to be released. So if we have done the right thing and we are getting the second tranche, then that's a cap. I'll say that a feather in the cap of all of us.
In the finance ministry, in particular.
Yes.
The finance minister.
Yes.
Correct.
Further in the cup?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're saying?
Mm-hmm.
A loan is a loan, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this IMF bailout is a loan. It still puts pressure on our finances going forward. For me, in as much as the IMF has cleared Ghana for the second tranche, it all depends on how we are putting things in place to manage this economy and our finances after this bailout. And for me, the one thing that increases the challenges we have is the exchange rate. So when you look at the petroleum industry, it is not the increase in petroleum prices that increase or that gives us problems. It is the exchange rate. And if we can't bring the exchange rate to acceptable levels, there will still be pressure on our finances. So, in as much as they have passed us, what we used the first tranche for, I'm not sure whether we've been able, government has told us, although I think at the time they indicated that it would be used to pay for our balance, our deficits, international deficits and all that. But still, the people of Ghana are feeling the pressure. Things are still challenging and very difficult. And let's hope going forward with this second tranche, government will be able to itemize to us how that money is going to be spent. I don't buy this thing, this wholesale thing that they say is going to go towards paying our balance of payments. Fine. What are the nitty-gritty details? Or that we'll have to wait for the budget to find it in the budget after how many months down the road. If at any given time the Minister of Finance is advising us, so this 600 million hopefully would hit our account in November, shouldn't we have itemized what that 600 million is going to be used for so that the people also know? And I keep saying, one of the challenges I have with our politics nowadays is the fact that the people who vote parties into power are the last ones to get the information. And I don't think it should be so, especially in the type of crisis we find ourselves in. There has to be due reportage with regards to, you're getting 600 million, it's going to go here, it's going to go here, and we should make sure it goes there. We are entering an election season, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And we know what happens during elections, don't we?
What happens?
In terms of government spending, the way it balloons. They should be able to tell us and be able to show us that in 2024, government expenditure is not going to balloon. Should be able to tell us. We are in times of crisis. I haven't seen a situation where we have come and said, okay, because of A, B, C, D, E, there are certain projects we won't be able to do. They haven't said it, but you see it's not being done. Roads is one of them. Roads is one of them. I want a situation where we have this one-on-one discussion at any given time because of the crisis we find ourselves in. It is good that IMF has seen that we've done all the things we needed to do, but once the money comes, the handling of it and the management of it is where the challenge is. So,
but hasn't the city stabilized relatively?
It is stabilized because of the loans that have come in, isn't it? What happened, what the finance minister was doing previously, at the first quarter of every year, we go for bonds and it covers the naked city and looks as if it's stabilized. And that is what is happening now. And I'm saying one of the things that would push the cedi would be exchange rate. We are getting into Christmas. There are going to be demands on the dollar. All these things should be managed. And for me, the communication bit is key. For me that is key. For us to be able to sit here and say things that or contribute to the dialogue. But if money is coming in and really they just give us a blanket statement, it's going to be used for X, and we don't know the nitty-gritties of how that X is going to be, Does it help? Because then, by the time you realize that the money was used for things that are ultra-various to what it's been used for, it would be 2024 November. The government might not be in power anymore. Another party might be in power, or government might be in power under another leadership, and then more excuses will be given. So at this point, where we find that we are all in the boat, country broke, country no boat, at this point, we are all in it. Let's always give advice. 600 million is coming. Next tranche is coming. It's going to go A, B, C, D, E, F. This is how we're going to use it. This is where it's going to go to. Because then you find that even when the money has come in, there are things that aren't working. Cocoa industry is one area that is challenging today. Challenging today. Yes, we've been able to stabilize fuel prices, but even that, would we say is good for oil that has done it, or would we say it is IMF monies that have come in that has been able to stabilize it? These kinds of discussions should be had so that the people are informed.
All right, Ni, IMF issues economic indicators pointing in the right direction compared to previously. The fact that negotiations with our external creditors have gone well, are going well, to the point that it seems more likely than not that the second tranche of 600 million will be released by the third week of November. Your thoughts?
See, Ghana is a recovering addict. See, yes, we have an addiction. That addiction is that we don't produce enough. We are an import driven economy. We had a promise by our outgoing president that
He's not outgoing.
Why?
He's still in power.
He's what?
Well,
I didn't hear the word. I said he's outgoing.
November 4th will be off.
He's still.
I didn't say he's not the president.
Until 2025.
I didn't say he's not the president.
After November 4th.
I say he's the outgoing president. You can choose to debate
the
me.
process hasn't started towards that yet.
The process hasn't started.
The
What
process
process?
starts 4 months, not the more than 4 months before his term of office expires, and you know that. So proceed.
That is his way of describing it. He's not outgoing.
Until there has been a president elect, he's not outgoing. So please go on.
What is that job?
Anyway,
you see, you've lost your train of thought.
No, I've not lost my train of thought.
Okay. Then let me give another one. The checked out president.
The checked out president. I was going to say the man himself has said that he's on his way out and that we are in the process of electing a new president.
The new president will help Ghana.
So exactly. He's checked out. Checked out president. He said the Gadgisburg economy.
Would a new president not help Ghana regardless?
But governance is a continuum.
Exactly. So why are you making a big fuss about it?
I'm not making a big fuss. I'm saying that he's an outgoing president.
Talking about IMF. He's not outgoing. He leaves office.
Almost like a form of
he leaves office on 7 January 2025. So please continue.
Check it out. And
You are going and you are the
you can check our both mentally and physically. Check it out. And you see. As I said, we are suffering from an addiction, and this addiction, we have now decided, claiming that we have gone back to a rehab center, which we have been to 17 times previously, but this time, dear,
only country.
This time, dear, as always, addicts promise. As for this time,
I'm stopping.
This time.
It will
happen again. Yes, this time Ghana would be
prudent.
We will not buy cars, brand new cars. We have an addiction problem, and whether it is NDC, look, NDC can come to power today. The fundamentals of our economy
and go to IMF
have not changed. We have an IMF program that is going to run 5 years. Which means that probably by the time the next president is almost exiting his tenure of office, will now have been finishing the IMF program. We have lost and we keep losing an opportunity to have a hard an honest conversation about our economy. Apolitical. We sat behind this table, we've given very fine ideas that look. I listened to a speech by the Singaporean Prime Minister, then the one who literally changed there's a certain interview, I've forgotten his name, but
Lee Kuan Yew.
I believe that is the name, where he was saying that people underestimated they are small in size, but there are certain values that they have that will drive their economy. They believe in the meritocracy, right? Yes. So the person who becomes prime minister has to have certain benchmark requirements. We have chosen the path of democracy. But if you look at some of the advanced democracies, Israel, for example, at the time of war, has formed a unity government. Germany has a number of parties, but they have certain coalitions that they form, and they are able to govern together. But when it comes to
there's proportional representation.
Oh, well, whatever. But there is proportional. Whatever it is, countries have been able to know that on certain issues, we need to be apolitical. Yeah. Norway, for example, when they discovered oil, they had a national commitment that certain percentage of the monies and the way they will manage their oil resource would make sure that there's a generational wealth that they have created. Look at their sovereign,
even Canada,
world funds.
Billions, trillions.
Ghana can do it. Yeah. But we need to depoliticize our conversations when it comes to the issue of the economy. Other than that, we are hurting ourselves. We are going nowhere. How do we do this? Let's have a national economic dialogue. Let us come together and put policies and programs that seek to drive our economy from an import-driven economy to a manufacturing economy, an industrialized economy. We have
an export-driven.
Export-driven. I think that some of the ways we can start is some of our line items, import line items. For example, we could do something about our oil imports. For example, we could do something about sugar. Apparently, cassava, salt, and other things that are even shea butter. There are things, if you listen to Kennedy Japan, ethanol, for example, are things, corn and things are things that we can actually use to become or change the nature of our economy. There are products that apparently we have that can have 16, 17 byproducts that we can use to change.
Pineapple crowns.
We are moving towards an electric cars, for example. Mass transport. We need to have a national dialogue and tell us over the next maybe 20 years. This is our national development plan. We've put it into statute. You can only touch it by 2/3 majority. If we are able to come to that realization and have that conversation, maybe this generation we can do something different.
But it's got a lot to do with mindset.
You can have
everything in there.
As for the Akufo-Addo and other generation, that era, I think that His Excellency. His Excellency.
Who has checked out? We clearly
cannot expect Mr. Janto's generation to do anything different. That generation is done. I have hope in the ones who did the demonstration. They are the new generation. They maybe can have a different outlook towards our development. As for this NDC MPP game that we are all playing, where we've decided that one party claims you have the better alternatives, it's
just killing.
It's just
Just killing.
And until we do something about it, we are going to have the same problems all over again. I pray that we'll have this national cause so that we will tell ourselves that projects such as the National Cathedral and others will not feature in our economic conversation again.
But we have a national development plan. Why don't we start from there?
Well, that's a start. But you see, a national development plan that is not controlled or was not originated by one party, but it is the national development plan that had the input and consent of all the major stakeholders in the country, and which was endorsed by our people's representatives.
Perpetual secession.
As it is now, we are an addict country
that has gone back to the rehab. Let us pray we stay on our medication. Let us pray that we are able to do the full, how many days they have? They have the days, 28 days or whatever, full cycle, which is now a 5-year cycle. When we come out,
that is where the problem
may we not, may we not.
The medication cure us.
Well, may we not, the medication is not curing us, but when we detox, you see, when we detox, may we not go back, you understand, to the addiction again. But having gone 17 times,
you've been to the addiction.
My hope are beyond a radical change in attitude.
It's a mindset thing that we need to change that generation coming after us.
I have made my comparison. I don't have hope that any of the two parties, with the kind of politics we are playing now, with our economy, are going to be able to do anything different. Because already we are an IMF program, so the new government is already economically tied down.
Yeah.
Our revenue to expenditure is now what? We don't even have 10% to be able to even run and do any pay. We have no fiscal space. So as it is now, we are overrun. Debt overrun. Tight. So as it is, we pray for the next government. I pray. Ghana should not fail. That's the only thing. In fact, that was the message I was telling somebody this week. A 61-year-old client of mine who I was having a conversation with. I told her that, well, her generation has done their bit. She's on retirement. I feel sad that, I was giving an example, and I'll just use 2 minutes to conclude, that my parents, and my father was very proud not to give me an English name and always had a certain Nkrumah's mindset. He believed that as a public servant, you serve your country, you complete your service, you should be able to live a decent life in your retirement and be able to die a proud Ghanaian. Yeah. He never ever gave us a mindset that we had to school outside, and so I never schooled in any university or secondary school outside except postgraduate. He had that mindset, brought his children up that way. Can we say that their generation, their parents and our parents, have we maintained that same faith? If you look at the kind of economy we are running, can we tell ourselves that our children are able to go to basic school in Ghana, public schools for that matter, and are able to come out as good products? Or we are all shipping our children as politicians and the educated elite to private schools and are telling the ordinary Ghanaian that take your children to the public schools? How many ministers in this country are able to be bold enough to send their children to the public schools? But in their parents' generation, their parents were able to, and Uncle Janto, I'm sure, in your time, all of you were going to public schools. And you were proud to go to the public schools because of the quality of education you were getting. What is it that we are doing to our own country at the moment? Are we giving our children hope? I think that we have to have an honest conversation as Ghanaians. That Ghana must not, my message is that Ghana must not fail. Some of us still have hope. That even as we are claiming to be politicians and we are doing what we are doing, we are not secretly going to the Canadian embassy, taking visas, and sending our children and our wives out of the country, pretending as if we are all suffering with the masses. May we be honest politicians in this country. That's my message for Ghanaians today.
And how many politicians today have their children in public schools?
None. Zero. Even our Minister of Education.
Exactly.
Zero. He cannot confidently tell us that he has his children in any of the public schools in this country. Exactly. It's a sad reflection.
Why is it a sad reflection?
Because before that,
did not live in Ghana, and if the person did not live in Ghana,
doesn't have
the
to.
person,
See, there's a certain moral. There's a certain moral.
Are you comparing?
There is a certain moral. Hold on. I'm not comparing.
Are you handpicking or are cherry picking people?
Ghana. I never mentioned any political party.
You just said something. You said the Minister for Education.
Hold on. I said Ghana must be able. Let me not even isolate him. Let me just say let me make a more general statement.
Make it generic.
That Ghana must work. If our parents were able to attend, and I'm using education, public educational institutions, and the level of education, the quality of education they received was able to make them stay in Ghana and become public servants, give off their best. They don't deserve the kind of treatment that some of them are getting, even as today, having to picket and all that.
Even with the public schools.
What is the level and quality of education we are giving our children today?
Even the public schools. Can they compare
that, and to answer you, Doc, I'm saying that there is a moral duty or a moral obligation that if as politicians we preach that we are doing the very best for the ordinary Ghanaian, if we have our children
All right.
in public schools, we should be able to be bold enough to tell them that if we think that the BEC and SSC we are producing for public schools is good enough, our children as politicians should be in those schools.
But
You cannot preach one thing and then practice another thing.
Incidentally, the public schools in Ghana recruit only trained and certified teachers. You have to pass your teachers' lines
And where are the teachers
exams
today?
in
Before
the
you
public
have-
schools.
And where are the teachers
And
today?
then on the other side, no, that's what they do. The public schools, they will never employ you. But can I? They will never employ you unless in the GS you will not be employed unless you've qualified as a teacher, with a diploma, a degree in education. You've also passed your exams, the licensure exams. Nonetheless, there's a problem with the public schools. However, the private schools take anybody, SHS graduates, unemployed graduates, even teachers who have not passed their licensure exam. So isn't it interesting that the public schools that are supposed to get the best and the qualified do not produce what we are requiring, but then the private schools that take anybody. I have an adopted I'll say a daughter or a guardian,
daughter. She's not
a
adopted.
guardian that
She's
I'm taking care of, and she's teaching in a private school because she's not passing. She's left with one of her subjects when it comes to teachers' licensure exams, and I keep saying that once you pass, then you can get into the public sector. So let's look at where the blame should be. Why is it that we have trained and qualified teachers, only trained and qualified, who have passed their licensure exams in the public schools? And yet we are complaining. And then the private schools
10,000 have
take,
left.
and then the private schools take anybody, SHS, anyhow, and then they are rather producing. There must be somewhere. There must be a blame somewhere. We must look at it. We shouldn't just take it, and just say that this is what is happening. We have to find out why does the qualified produce poorly, and then the unqualified produce excellently. What is the reason?
IMF is happy with Ghana, but I mean, as my co-panelists have all said, it is not just about IMF being happy with Ghana. It's also about the fact that if we have committed to going to IMF and we are there, it is good that we have stuck to the conditions that come with going to IMF. Because I had
no choice.
It would have been but there are countries that fail. They go and I think that would have been an even harsher pronouncement and judgment on us that we couldn't even stay there to and satisfy those conditions. So I think that looking at what the Ministry of Finance and Economic Group have done, that we have scored brownie points with. Let's stay there. If we are there for a reason to recover, and we've managed to meet, because remember that the conditionalities that they give to us is not to satisfy them, but it's also to help us on our path to recovery. So it is good that we have satisfied.
And will we
those
stick
things.
to them when we are done?
We will stick. We have to.
We miss Dr. Bawumia. We miss Dr. Bawumia's lectures.
But I think where I want to look at is the fact that it is not just about the fact that once you have gotten there, you are there. But remember, the rating agencies will come back to you if you don't get there. And the rating agencies is one of the reasons why we went so low that we now had to go to IMF. Most especially, or most importantly, I want us to look at one of the conditionalities with the IMF is about social spending. And I think it's always going to IMF is always a thing about how the poor and the vulnerable are affected. So if we have satisfied that condition as well, then it is very good. So I look at how we have been able to strengthen social interventions and social programs such as capitation, school feeding, LEAP, national health insurance. Those are the fundamentals that protect the poor and the vulnerable. So it is so important that even if we are still with IMF, we keep our focus on these social interventions. It is so important for me. So expenditure is under control.
The vulnerable are all Ghanaians, though. They are all
Ghanaians. Yes, so that's what I'm talking about. That social net, that social, we need to keep working at that. Because irrespective of the fact that you are with IMF, all your economic indicators and etc. will go well. So the IMF would be very happy. But what I'm saying is the other side. What do we do? Let's look at our social So let's look at our social spending. Let's see how we strengthen these social interventions. That's the social safety net for poor people. So expenditure will be under control. We see that inflation, I mean, it's somewhere in February I remember even when it dropped to 52, we were happy. Okay, today it's 38.1, so there is improvement. It's still high, but it's improvement.
Because when you go to the banks for money, the interest rates are high.
But it still has to keep dropping. Definitely it has. But it's still improvement.
Even if it gets to 20, it's still
our international reserves higher.
To single figures.
CD's depreciation, at the time when it got to 15, 16, we're even afraid to come on air and talk because you don't even know what tomorrow holds for you. But now there's some stability. We can see it dropping.
Because of IMF.
It's not, but why then did we go to IMF? If we went to IMF and it didn't drop, then we had more problems.
Okay, so
if we went to IMF and it went to 17, so I won't be able to.
So the question is, when we are out of it, can we be able to keep it low?
As it is now, we have satisfied the conditions. It's one step at a time. We are going there. For me, there's something that I keep asking myself, and I said it the last time. I think I've said it on air before. That rice production in Ghana, I heard on record that we produce almost 1 million tons of rice, but we only mill 50,000 of it. Why? And then we import 550,000.
Because there's a cartel.
There's a cartel.
There's a cartel.
But
there's a cartel.
So it's it's not about any. But it's when you look at the report that I was reading, it's something that has been happening for decades.
Yes,
gone into it.
Lack of agri machinery, they are too expensive.
So there's and it's so many things that feed into that sector.
You haven't prioritized.
So sometimes I do agree with me. We have to have a non-partisan discussion on some of these.
Sugar is another one.
And it means that
sugar is another one.
Administration comes.
Jutsak is another one.
Does not really address these fundamental issues. And for me, these are the specific things that have a lot of pressure on our foreign.
And who is supposed to lead that discussion? Who is supposed to lead that discussion? Isn't it the leader of the country who should lead that discussion?
Every government, the leader of the country appoints people.
Yes, but
so
he's the leader.
No. I'm not going to put that there, and that's why I've said that
we all agree to a national discussion. Somebody has to lead it.
We have to have it.
Who is the we? Who is the
you
we?
And I, we are all responsible for what we have to do.
Somebody has to lead it.
At the end of the day, the issues are that, you see, as soon as the leader of the country takes hold of it, are you aware it becomes partisan?
Because we want it to be partisan. We want it to be partisan.
The opposition to decide if they would agree to anything. We want it to be non-partisan.
The leader has to bring everybody around the table.
Find dialogue flaws where we discuss it in
If we discuss it and the leader in power doesn't take it on, what happens?
The IMF, we need to be able to have.
No, we should start now, not under IMF. We start now.
But if what we've already started, we've gone ahead with our revenue improvement. I mean, we've gone with the
revenue discussion. Let's start now.
All right. Domestic. I mean, thank you. I've always said that our success with IMF has not just gone to the financial. I mean, to those who have managed the
success with IMF. We would have gone there 17 times.
So it is also, lawyer, stop interrupting. It is also because we had the domestic debt exchange, and I always say thank you to all the people who held on and said exactly.
That has caused problems for us.
All of that helped our domestic debt.
It has caused problems for us.
Debt and the sacrifice, it was hard. People sacrificed, and we came on air and spoke about it.
Let's hope they realize it.
To people because if we had done all of this and we hadn't been able to still satisfy the conditions, I think people would have
we shouldn't have been here in the first place.
More slighted because they would have said, even after all the sacrifice that you made us have to say that because of that, so that we can at least keep getting
we shouldn't have been here in the first place.
Thank you to all those because you
shouldn't have been here in the first place.
And the citizens,
especially when we came into what you call it.
Let us make this thing. Ghana is for all of us. We are all concerned, and that's why we are here.
But they should do the right thing.
Let's try to speak, to issues and stop always saying that it's one person who must lead it. That person is leading things. Let us also take the initiative and add more.
But that one person would listen.
Thank you, and thank you all. And that's all time would allow us this morning. This morning we've been talking about three main things. We talked about the Atuasian Capital Bank case and the sentencing into prison for failure to meet the agreed terms. We also, and on that we spoke to the Deputy Attorney General and Deputy Minister of Justice Alfred Tuah Yeboah. We also also talked about the OSP and the Cecilia Dapar case and the fact that a petition has been sent to the Chief Justice for him to recuse himself and matters arising in that regard. And we just ended with the IMF, Ghana IMF, and the release of the second tranche of bailout money as well, and the economic indicators pointing in the right direction, and Ghana having fulfilled all its requirements under the IMF program for the second tranche to be released. This morning, my guests have been Kwame Janto, who is a lawyer and member of the CPP, Gloria Faribodo, who is a lawyer and the managing attorney at GOB Law Consult, Nipapo Samwa Ado, who is a lawyer, law lecturer, and member of the National Democratic Congress, and Dr. Antoinette Tibudako, who is the Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time with us this morning. As always, as we say, stay informed until next